The first shot missed his heart by less than a finger's width. Evan felt the heat before the pain, a violet beam slicing past his ribs and exploding into the snow behind him. The shockwave threw him face first into ice, knocking the breath out of his lungs. Alarms screamed inside his helmet. Red warnings bloomed across his visor like angry wounds. "Get up," he told himself. "If you stay down, you die." Around him, the snow-covered forest burned. Tall white trees cracked and fell as alien fire chewed through bark and stone. The night sky glowed blue and purple, lit by weapons never meant to exist on this quiet world. This was supposed to be a diplomatic escort, not a massacre. Evan rolled onto his back and fired blindly. His rifle barked sharp human thunder. One of the armored shapes in the smoke stumbled and fell. The others adjusted instantly, their movements precise and cold. They were hunting something. Or someone. A sharp cry cut through the chaos. Not fear, rage. Evan's head snapped toward the sound. She stood at the center of the clearing, untouched by fire. Snow swirled around her like it obeyed her will. Long blonde hair spilled from beneath an ornate headpiece set with blue gemstones that caught the light of burning trees. Her blue eyes were bright, furious, and unafraid. Princess Lyra of the Aurelian Crown. She wore no visible armor. Only a black, fur-lined coat clasped at the throat, blue earrings swaying as she turned. Frost clung to her lashes, but her posture was straight, regal, unbroken. The aliens hesitated when they saw her. That hesitation saved her life. Evan surged to his feet and sprinted. His muscles screamed, his suit protested. He didn't slow. Another beam grazed his shoulder, burning through outer plating. He ignored it and threw himself between Lyra and the attackers. A translucent shield flared to life around him, hexagonal patterns rippling as it absorbed impact after impact. Lyra stared at his back, stunned. "Human," she shouted over the noise. "You were told to stay with the transport." Evan didn't turn. "Change of plans," he said, voice tight. "Run now." "I do not flee my own land." "Then stand very still and trust me," he snapped. Something in his tone cut through her anger. She stepped closer instead of running, snow crunching softly beneath her boots. The scent of cold pine and smoke mixed with something faintly floral. Evan triggered his last charge. The shield exploded outward in a blinding flash, knocking the remaining attackers off their feet. He grabbed Lyra's wrist and pulled. They ran. Branches tore at his armor. Snow blinded him. Behind them, the forest roared as enemy forces regrouped. They dove into a narrow ravine just as a beam carved through the air where Lyra's head had been. Silence fell hard and sudden. Evan leaned against the icy rock, chest heaving. He shut down his shield. Steam rose from his damaged suit. Lyra stood inches from him. Up close, she was even more unreal. Fair skin flushed pink from the cold, braided strands of blonde hair woven with tiny silver threads. Her blue eyes searched his face with sharp intelligence, not panic. Her gaze dropped to his armor, the scorched plates, the cracked joints, the faint glow fading beneath the surface. "You are wounded," she said softly. "I've had worse," Evan replied. "Highness." She ignored the title. Her gloved fingers hovered near his chest, not touching, curious, almost reverent. "That armor," she said. "It absorbed weapons designed to shatter starship hulls." He shrugged, wincing. "It's just armor." Lyra looked up at him then, really looked. Her expression shifted from fury to confusion to something else. "No," she said quietly, "it is not." Snow drifted down between them. The distant sounds of pursuit echoed through the trees. Lyra's voice dropped, carrying a question that would change everything. "Human," she asked, eyes locked on his, "what did you build that armor to protect you from?" Evan met her gaze, knowing the truth would terrify her. And he answered anyway. Evan did not answer her right away. He listened instead. The forest had its own language, and right now it whispered danger. Boots crunching snow, energy cells humming. The hunters were spreading out, careful now. He pressed a finger to his helmet and whispered, "Motion, North Ridge. 2 squads, maybe 3. Lyra blinked. "You can hear them." "I can feel them," he said. "This suit translates vibration. Heartbeats, footsteps, fear." Her lips parted slightly. That was the first crack in her composure. "Come," she said. "There is an old shrine nearby. Aurelian stone disrupts tracking fields." Evan nodded and followed without question. They moved low and fast, slipping between rocks glazed with ice. The ravine opened into a narrow path lined with ancient pillars half buried in snow, carved with symbols that pulsed faintly blue as Lyra passed. The moment they crossed the threshold, the pressure in Evan's skull eased. "Tracking is gone," he murmured. "Nice trick." Lyra allowed herself a small, proud smile. "My people learned long ago how to hide from those who believed themselves superior." They stopped beneath a cracked archway. Snow fell gently here, untouched by fire. For the first time since the ambush, Lyra's shoulders sagged. She looked at him again, at the armor, at the burns that had nearly reached flesh. "You did not answer my question," she said. Evan exhaled slowly. He unlocked his helmet seals. With a soft hiss, the faceplate retracted, exposing his face to the cold, short dark hair damp with sweat, a shallow burn along his jaw. Lyra's eyes widened, not at the wound but at his expression. Tired, determined, human. "We didn't build this armor for glory," he said, "or war." "Then for what?" she asked. He met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "For the things that already tried to wipe us out." The silence that followed was heavy. Lyra folded her arms into her fur-lined coat. "Every species faces threats." "Not like ours," Evan replied. "Asteroids, radiation storms, plagues that rewrote our DNA, predators that hunted us before we had language, and yes, others like the ones chasing us now." Her eyes flicked toward the trees. "They came for us first," he continued. "Long before we reached the stars, so we learned a simple rule." "What rule?" she asked. He tapped the armor over his heart. "Assume the universe is hostile. Prepare accordingly." Lyra stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. "This armor," she said slowly, "it is not ceremonial, not symbolic." "No," Evan said, "it's a promise." "A promise to whom?" "To ourselves, that no matter what the universe throws at us, we get back up." A distant explosion rolled through the night. Lyra flinched. "They are burning the forest," she whispered. "They know I am here." "They know you're valuable," Evan corrected. "That makes you dangerous." She gave a soft, humorless laugh. "I have been trained in politics, diplomacy, history. I was taught that power is influence." Evan looked at the snow-stained sky beyond the arch. "Power is survival." Her gaze lingered on his exposed face, then drifted lower. She noticed the scars, old ones, cleanly healed. "How many battles have you fought?" she asked. "Enough to know I don't like them," he said. "Enough to know they don't care." Lyra stepped closer. The space between them felt charged, fragile, her breath fogged in the cold, brushing his cheek. "My people believed humans were reckless," she said quietly. "That you wrapped yourselves in metal because you feared the universe." Evan smiled faintly. "We do fear it." She looked confused. "Then why face it at all?" "Because," he said, "it doesn't care whether we're afraid." Another explosion, closer. Lyra's jaw tightened. "They will not stop. Even if they kill me, they will return. My world will never be safe." Evan reactivated his helmet halfway, the visor glowing faintly. "Then we don't let them take you." "You are one soldier," she said. "They are an armada." He keyed a signal into his suit. Somewhere far above the clouds, something answered. A deep vibration rolled through the ground, almost like a distant heartbeat. Evan's smile returned, sharper this time. I'm not alone. Lyra felt it then, not fear. Anticipation. What did you call for? She asked. Evan looked at her, eyes reflecting blue light from ancient Aurelian stone. Back up, he said, human style. Above them, the sky began to change. And Lyra realized, with a sudden chill, that the universe was about to learn why humans wore armor even when they spoke of peace. The rumble started low, like the world itself was groaning, and then the snow around the shrine shivered under the force. Evan didn't flinch. He tightened the straps on his scorched armor, checking the weak points, already running scenarios in his head. Lyra, however, froze. Her hair, braided with silver threads, whipped around her face in the wind. What is that?" she whispered, her blue eyes wide and luminous, reflecting the pale light of the swirling storm above. Humans call them dropships, Evan said, his voice calm but low, almost reverent. The best we've got, fast, armored, and angry when needed. In the sky, tiny lights began to descend, streaking through clouds tinged purple and orange from the alien weapons. They weren't alone anymore. Not by a long shot. Lyra reached for his shoulder, steadying herself. So, the armor, your life, it means nothing unless it can protect more than just you. Evan turned toward her, something like a smile tugging at his lips despite the chaos. Exactly. A massive shadow passed overhead. One of the dropships broke through the storm, armored plating glinting, thrusters blasting ice and snow into the wind. The aliens in the forest paused, sensing reinforcements. Lyra's hands instinctively clutched at the edges of her fur-lined coat. Her calm, icy composure cracked, revealing the girl underneath, the princess who had been taught to control everything, yet now saw the chaos humans could harness. Evan tapped his chest plate, a faint blue glow pulsing as the suit systems hummed back to life. Time to move, he said, voice steady. Stick close, don't look away. She did exactly that. They ran from the shrine through broken snow and splintered trees. Alien soldiers converged, but the dropships rained energy beams down, forcing the attackers back. Evan's armor absorbed glancing hits, sparks flying across the surface as he pushed Lyra along. At one point, she stumbled on ice, but he caught her instantly, their faces inches apart. Snowflakes clung to their eyelashes. Her lips parted in shock. He didn't speak, only steadied her, letting the storm rage around them. You humans, she said between gasps, you fight like gods. Evan laughed quietly, bitter but warm. No gods, just people who refuse to die quietly. They reached a ridge overlooking the alien encampment. From here, Lyra could see the scope of the assault. Fires burned patches of forest. Shadows of strange machines moved in the haze. The sound of distant explosions was deafening. You called them here, she said, eyes narrowing at him. You risked everything, your life, your world, just for me. Evan looked at her, and for the first time he didn't answer with humor. He simply said, yes, and because you're worth it. Lyra froze, the words hitting her harder than any beam or weapon. Her chest tightened. For centuries, she had been taught caution, diplomacy, control. But here was someone who had just admitted, plain and simple, that he would put everything on the line for her. The wind whipped around them, carrying the smell of ozone, ice, and burned pine. The blue glow of her gemstones on her headpiece sparkled as if responding to the pulse of his armor. Then came the first real shock. One of the dropships' hatches opened midair, and from it descended small squads of human soldiers, completely visible in the icy storm. They moved with synchronized precision, weapons blazing, melting alien forces like snow in sunlight. Evan reached out and grabbed Lyra's gloved hand. Stay close, watch me. They fought side by side, an improbable duo. The armored human and the alien princess. Each alien that got too close found themselves under the combined might of Evan's armor and the sudden, feral strategy of someone who had never fought before, Lyra. She had been trained in courtly intrigue, yes, but instincts born of desperation were something else entirely. A beam grazed her side. She cried out instinctively, but Evan was already there, sweeping her behind him, his armor shimmering with protective light. He caught her gaze, and in it she saw the raw human truth she hadn't expected: fear met with certainty, chaos met with strategy. "You survive," she whispered, almost in awe, "even when the universe is against you." Evan's smile was brief, fleeting but genuine. "We survive," he corrected. And then, as the alien forces began to retreat under the overwhelming human assault, a strange, trembling sound rolled across the forest. Not a weapon, not an engine, something living or something ancient. Lyra turned toward Evan, eyes wide and alert. What is that?" Evan's jaw tightened. His hand instinctively went to the control panel on his chest. "I don't know," he said slowly, "but I think we just found the thing that makes this fight personal." Above them, the snow swirled faster, the sky darkening as if warning them. And for the first time, Lyra realized that the universe they had both underestimated was far bigger and far more dangerous than either of them had imagined. The princess looked at the human at her side. His armor scratched, scorched, glowing faintly blue, his eyes calm, determined. And she whispered, almost to herself, "I think I like that about humans." Evan glanced down at her, lips quirking, sparks from his armor falling into the snow. "Then you'll love what comes next." The rumble in the forest deepened. Something moved, something massive, and it was coming straight for them. The snow fell harder, the wind howled. And the universe was about to test them both in ways neither could have predicted. The rumble wasn't just sound anymore. It was a heartbeat beneath the earth. The snow trembled under their boots, sending a fine mist of ice crystals into the air. Evan crouched behind a fallen pillar, scanning the horizon. His armor's sensors flickered, struggling against the storm. "Whatever this is," he muttered, "it's not alien tech, not like the ones chasing you. This is older, deadlier." Lyra's blue eyes darted around, fierce yet unsteady. "Older, deadlier. You've already survived starship weapons, and now you fear this." Evan shook his head. "Fear doesn't enter the equation, preparation does, and we're not prepared." A shadow passed over them, a shape vast, impossibly large, moving beneath the snow. Trees bent, branches snapping as if the wind itself obeyed the shape. Then it emerged. A creature unlike anything Lyra had ever seen. Its body was sleek, covered in armor-like scales that shimmered with the reflection of the storm. 6 limbs ended in clawed appendages, and its head was angular, crowned with twisted horns. Its eyes glowed deep red, and it was scanning the forest, hunting. Lyra gasped, stepping back. Evan's hand shot out instinctively, gripping her wrist. "Stay behind me." She did, but even behind the armor she felt the pulse of raw power. Intimidating, alive, and ancient. "It came for me," she whispered. "I've never felt such intent in a creature." Evan's jaw tightened. "No, it came for both of us, and it knows exactly how dangerous you are to it." The creature growled, or maybe it spoke, in a low vibration that made the snow itself shiver. Its eyes locked on Evan, the armored human, a challenge. "You," Lyra said incredulously, "it doesn't care about me." Evan exhaled slowly. "It doesn't care about anything except survival and winning." Lyra studied him, trying to process. Then impulsively she stepped closer, ignoring the snow crunching beneath her boots. Why do you look calm? It is huge, it is lethal. And you," she gestured to his battered armor, "you are already hurt." Evan's gaze softened for a moment, just for her, "Because I've survived worse, and because we're not alone." He tapped the armor on his chest. "We adapt." Lyra's lips parted slightly. She had been trained to observe, to strategize, to never reveal weakness. But seeing him here, ready to face an impossible threat without hesitation. She realized the difference between human courage and alien duty. The creature lunged. Snow exploded in its wake. Evan activated the full power of his armor, a brilliant blue shield enveloping them both, absorbing the impact with a thunderous crack that made Lyra's ears ring. Sparks flew from his shoulders. Ice and snow rained down. She stared at him, wide-eyed. I didn't know humans could." He cut her off, voice sharp over the ringing. "Focus, move with me, trust me." They ran together, ducking under fallen trees and dodging the creature's massive claws. Evan's armor absorbed strike after strike, but even he felt the force. The ground shook beneath each blow. The storm itself seemed to bend around the monster. At one point, the creature's claw scraped his chest plate. Sparks flew, armor cracking. Lyra screamed, but Evan caught her mid-fall, holding her close. The heat of his body, the cold of the storm, their breaths mingling. "I can't fight it alone," he admitted, almost to himself. "I need you." Lyra froze, staring at him. "Me, I'm not trained for." "You are," he said, voice firm. "Instincts, strategy, courage, you survive in ways I never could. Stand with me, or die apart from me." Her blue eyes shimmered with emotion, fear, awe, and something softer, unspoken. She nodded, almost imperceptibly. For the first time, she moved not as a princess, but as a warrior. She reached into the folds of her fur-lined coat, drawing a small device glowing with blue energy, the Aurelian sigil. The runes ignited in the storm, casting protective light around them, creating a faint barrier that disrupted the creature's tracking. Evan glanced at her, a brief smile breaking through his tension. "Now we fight together." The creature roared, a sound that shook the very snow from the trees. But Lyra, standing shoulder to shoulder with him, met its gaze unflinchingly. Evan realized then this was more than a fight for survival. This was a bond forming, forged in snow, fire, and impossible odds. And the universe, vast and indifferent, was watching. The first strike landed again, louder, closer, more personal. The ground split beneath them, and Evan and Lyra were hurled to opposite sides of the ridge. She hit hard, snow exploding around her, breath knocked out. He rolled, shield flickering, and charged forward, eyes locked on the massive creature. And then, as the storm raged and the forest screamed, Lyra realized something terrifyingly beautiful. The human beside her, flawed, scarred, armored, was the only thing standing between her world and annihilation. Her lips parted. I trust you." Evan, running toward her, armor battered but glowing, smiled faintly under the helmet. "Good, because it's about to get worse." The creature's roar split the sky, and this time it was personal. The creature's roar shook the ridge, rattling loose snow like thunder. Its claws carved grooves into the ice, sending shards spinning like deadly daggers. Evan's armor flared blue, absorbing the shockwaves, but even the shield wasn't enough to completely stop the force. Lyra scrambled to her feet, the Aurelian sigil still glowing in her hands. The light pulsed with energy she barely understood, but instinct guided her. With a deep breath, she extended the device, sending arcs of blue energy toward the creature. The air hissed as the beams struck its scales, momentarily slowing it. Evan saw his chance. He sprinted toward it, his armor groaning under the strain of continuous strikes. He leapt, launching a blast from his gauntlet that hit the creature's shoulder. Sparks and smoke erupted, but the beast barely faltered. Its red eyes locked onto him, and for a heartbeat, Evan felt an unfamiliar chill, not fear but awe. "This thing," he muttered, shouting over the storm. "It's not just alive, it thinks." Lyra nodded, her breath visible in the frigid air. "And it understands threat and power. It knows we are dangerous." The creature charged again. Snow and ice flew in all directions. Lyra's sigil pulsed faster, the runes glowing brighter. The energy created a shimmering barrier around them, deflecting blows just long enough for Evan to maneuver. But then the ground beneath them cracked. The creature slammed its claw into the frozen ridge, and a fissure opened. Evan barely grabbed Lyra's wrist, pulling her back as the ice split like paper. The shock threw them both down the slope, sliding toward a jagged canyon. "Hold on," Evan shouted. Lyra clutched him, their bodies colliding as they tumbled. The impact sent snow flying. For a moment, all they could see was white, the roar of wind and beast deafening. When they finally skidded to a stop, Evan was on top of her, shield flickering, armor dented, sweat and frost mixing on his face. Lyra looked up at him, hair tangled, blue eyes wide. You keep surviving," she whispered, awestruck. "How?" Evan chuckled, grim but tired. "Experience, luck, and stubbornness." He extended a hand, helping her to her feet. "But we don't get to survive by standing still." Above them, the creature paused, its red eyes scanning, claws digging into ice. And then something new happened. It spoke, a low vibration that resonated through the ridge, through the armor, through the snow itself. Lyra's sigil vibrated violently. It speaks to me," she murmured. I can feel it." Evan froze. "Can you understand it?" She nodded, voice trembling. "It wants me. It knows I hold the key to something." "What key?" Evan asked, voice sharp. "Lyra, we don't have time to figure out." She grabbed his arm, urgent. "Listen, it's not just attacking. It's searching for something inside me, something my ancestors hid. That's why it came for me specifically." Evan's eyes narrowed. His armor beeped with warnings, energy dipping dangerously low. "Then it's not a battle we can win with force alone." Lyra's blue eyes met his, steady now despite the storm and the immense threat. "No, we have to make it think we're partners, or it kills us both." Evan frowned. "Partners with a monster the size of a mountain." She gave a small, fierce smile. "Humans always underestimate humans. Maybe it underestimates me too." The creature roared again, shaking the canyon walls. Lyra stepped forward, standing tall despite the snow, ice, and threat. Her sigil's glow wrapped around her, creating a halo of power that touched the creature's scales. Evan, watching her, felt something shift. She wasn't just a princess. She was fierce, unpredictable, brilliant. The armor had protected him from countless enemies, but here, he realized, she might be the weapon they both needed. He reached for her hand. "Then we do this together." Her fingers met his, and for the first time in hours, the storm seemed to pause. The creature watched, eyes flicking between them, sensing their connection, testing it. Then it crouched, coiling like a predator preparing for a strike, but instead of rushing, it hesitated. The tension was electric. Lyra whispered, "It's listening, waiting for us to prove ourselves." Evan's gaze hardened. "Then let's prove it, human and princess, together." Snow swirled around them, the creature looming like a shadow of nightmares. And in that frozen canyon, something impossible began to unfold. A fragile, daring alliance between two worlds, one armored, one regal, and a monster that might decide the fate of both. The air hummed, the ground trembled. And the next move would change everything. The snowstorm thickened, wrapping the canyon in a blinding white. Evan's armor flickered under the strain of constant energy readings. Every strike, every tremor from the ground below, pulsed through its plating, warning him that it couldn't withstand another full blow. Lyra stood beside him, sigil glowing, breathing steady despite the chaos. She could feel it now, the creature, massive and ancient, probing her very being. It wasn't just after her life. It was after something hidden, buried deep within her bloodline. "What does it want from you?" Evan asked, crouched, shield flickering, in response to the vibrations pulsing through the ice. Lyra hesitated. Her blue eyes, usually calm and regal, were wide with a mix of fear and determination. "A secret my ancestors took to their graves. A power the Aurelian crown has hidden for centuries. It's in me." Evan's gaze sharpened. "Power," he scanned the creature again. Its 6 limbs were coiled, muscles rippling under its scales. Its eyes, red and intelligent, locked on Lyra like a predator on its prey. "That thing doesn't just sense you, it knows." Lyra nodded. "Yes, it knows, and it won't stop until it finds it. If it succeeds, it won't just kill me. It'll destroy everything I protect. Evan clenched his fists inside the armor. The scratches, the dents, the stress, it all seemed small compared to the weight of that revelation. His armor had kept him alive for countless battles, but this was different. Survival alone wasn't enough. The creature stepped forward. Its massive claws cracked the ice, sending snow and shards spinning. But instead of attacking, it paused, tilting its head, watching them. And then it emitted a low vibration, a growl that seemed almost questioning. Lyra's fingers tightened around the sigil. "It's testing me," she whispered. "It wants to know if I am worthy or dangerous." Evan realized something crucial. It doesn't just sense power, it senses intent. Whatever is in your blood, it can tell if you control it or if it controls you. Lyra's lips pressed together. She stepped forward, raising the sigil, the blue runes flaring brighter than ever. "I've been trained all my life to hide weakness, to wear composure like armor," she said. "But this is different. I have to show it who I am." The creature lunged, faster than the eye could follow, aimed directly at Lyra. Snow exploded as Evan's shield flared, taking the brunt of the strike. Sparks flew. Armor groaned. The impact sent him sliding across the ice toward her. "Now," he shouted. Lyra released the energy from the sigil in a sweeping arc. The light wrapped around the creature, clashing against its scales. For a heartbeat, it seemed to pause mid-motion, red eyes flickering in confusion. Evan hit the armor boosters, launching himself toward it. His gauntlet struck its side, blue energy arcing over the scales. The creature staggered, but the pause came not from pain, it came from recognition. Lyra's voice trembled but grew stronger. "You will not take what is mine. You will not destroy what I protect." The creature froze, as if absorbing her words. Then, slowly, it stepped back, coiling like it was calculating, watching. Its gaze softened, not completely, but enough that Evan could see a shift. Evan grabbed her arm. "It's listening. Keep it focused on you. Not us, not the battle, just you." Lyra nodded, sweat and snow on her brow. "It's responding, not attacking, but it's still dangerous." Evan's armor read the creature's vital signs, a mix of rage, curiosity, and intelligence. It was alive in ways he'd never encountered. This wasn't a fight of strength. It was a test, a negotiation between wills. The storm around them seemed to hold its breath. Evan glanced at Lyra, noticing for the first time the fierce beauty in her determination, the raw courage that didn't come from training, but from her very essence. "You're more than a princess," he said softly, almost to himself. "You're unstoppable." Lyra's blue eyes met his, a flash of warmth cutting through the cold. "Then fight with me, human, not for glory, for survival." He nodded, armor glowing faintly, bruised but defiant. "For survival." The creature hissed, a sound that was neither roar nor growl. Then it lunged again, slower this time, testing. Lyra raised her sigil, and Evan's gauntlet flared in perfect sync. For the first time, they weren't just defending. They were controlling the fight together. Human ingenuity, princess lineage, and armor forged by desperation, combined into a force neither the universe nor the creature had anticipated. And in that moment, Evan realized the truth. The armor he wore had protected his body, but Lyra's courage, and the trust forming between them, was protecting his soul. The snow swirled, lightning cracked across the sky, and the creature's massive form hesitated, almost reverent. Lyra whispered, "It's listening, waiting for me to prove I am its equal." Evan reached for her hand. "Then let's show it together." The storm roared. The ancient creature glowed faintly under the blue light of the sigil and the armor. The fight wasn't over. It had only just begun. The storm had reached its peak. Snow lashed against frozen cliffs, wind howled like the cries of 1,000 lost worlds, and the creature, massive, red-eyed, and coiled in impossible strength, hovered above the shattered ridge. Lyra stood beside Evan, sigil glowing, frost clinging to her braids. Her blue eyes were sharp, unwavering, yet alive with the tension of everything she had just realized about herself. She was not just a princess. She was the key, the living legacy her ancestors had hidden, the one the universe had tested in silence for centuries. Evan's armor was battered. Sparks flew from every joint. The shields had failed him more than once. His breaths came fast, visible in the cold air. But he looked at Lyra and smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carries calm in the eye of apocalypse. "It's not going to wait," he said, voice low but firm. "We have one chance." Lyra nodded. She felt the pulse of the creature beneath the snow and sky, sensing its curiosity and intelligence. It wasn't mindless. It was ancient, but it understood instinctively life, survival, courage, and it was waiting for proof that she could control her own power. She raised the sigil high. The blue runes shimmered, lighting the snowstorm around them. Evan mirrored her action, channeling the last reserve of his armor's energy into a protective pulse. Together, human and princess, machine and magic, they became a single beacon in the blizzard. The creature hesitated, watching. Its massive claws dug into ice as if it were measuring, calculating. Then it let out a low vibration, a sound that resonated deep in the bones. Lyra felt it in her chest, in the blood of her ancestors. I am the heir," she whispered, voice steady. "I carry what my people hid, but I am not yours to take. I am the guardian." The creature's eyes flickered. Its limbs coiled, then released in slow motion. The red glow softened. It stepped forward and lowered its massive head. Lyra's sigil pulsed in response, almost like a heartbeat. Evan's eyes widened. "It bowed," he murmured, "or acknowledged you." Lyra looked at him, astonished. "Both." The snowstorm seemed to pause around them. For the first time in hours, the wind softened. The alien attackers had vanished, retreating in confusion at the human reinforcements above. Nature itself seemed to take a breath. Evan lowered his gauntlet, shield fading, armor settling. "Guess that's why humans wear armor," he said quietly, a hint of humor in his voice. "Not just to survive bullets, fire, or monsters. Sometimes it's to survive trust." Lyra stepped closer, brushing snow from his chest plate. Her fingers lingered over the scratches, the dents, the glowing seams. "And sometimes," she said softly, "armor protects those we care about, not just ourselves." Evan looked down at her, heart pounding despite the exhaustion. "You're saying that?" She met his gaze, eyes clear, fierce, and tender all at once. "I'm saying I trust you, completely." The creature, massive and alien, watched quietly from the ridge. It had tested, challenged, and acknowledged them. But it did not attack, not anymore. It seemed satisfied. Perhaps it understood in its ancient, unknowable way that this bond, the human and the princess, was a force the universe could not ignore. Evan let out a slow breath. "Then we're not done yet," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. "But at least we have a chance." Lyra's fingers brushed his hand. The warmth from her touch traveled straight through the armor, straight into his chest. "We face it together," she said. "Always." Above, the sky cleared slightly. Stars peeked through the clouds. The snow shimmered with the faint glow of their combined power, the battlefield quiet, holding the promise of new beginnings. Evan glanced at her, then at the horizon. "Humans survive because we never stop moving, never stop fighting, and never stop trusting each other." Lyra's lips curved in a rare, soft smile. "Then maybe humans are not so reckless after all." He chuckled, brushing a strand of her braid from her face. "Not reckless, determined." And in that frozen, alien world, with the storm fading and the creature watching silently, Evan realized something he had never understood before. The armor had kept him alive, yes, but Lyra had made him invincible. The universe had thrown its worst at them, and they had survived, together. Snow swirled around their boots. Blue light flickered from sigil and armor, and even in the cold, Lyra's hand in his burned with warmth. The fight had ended, but their story, their bond, was just beginning. And somewhere deep in the stars, the universe had taken note. Humans endure, humans fight, humans survive. And sometimes, they even make the impossible feel like home.